Here we go. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is considering visiting some key primary states as he touts his new book. The cross-country tour kicked off yesterday and includes planned stops in California, Alabama, and Texas. Now, according to a source familiar with his plans, the governor is also looking at visiting Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and possibly South Carolina. DeSantis has long been speculated to run for president, but he has yet to make a formal announcement. Keep not watching. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump remains on the offensive against DeSantis ahead of any potential White House bid. He again took aim at the Florida governor on social media, with Trump writing DeSantis, quote, wanted to cut Social Security and raise the minimum age to at least 70, at least 4 times. Likewise, with Medicare, wanted big cuts. He's a wheelchair off the cliff kind of guy. Hey, Trump also claimed Fox News is promoting DeSantis, writing, quote, the new Fox poll, which have always been purposefully terrible for me, has Trump crushing DeSanctimonious. He's back to DeSanctimonious, but they rarely show it. Willie, the meatball is getting to him. He's obsessed with the meatball, although he won't stick with that name.
No, he likes DeSanctimonious. I don't know. It's a mistake, I think. He's got better. But let's talk about the substance of this book tour that Ron DeSantis is on. Perhaps it's just a coincidence. There are nice bookstores in Des Moines and Manchester, Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah. He's also going to the Reagan Library to an event, which is obviously a big step to sort of touch that stone. Is this a sort of informal announcement that he's running for president, or at least some kind of exploration of that? And clearly, as we've said 100 times now on this show, Donald Trump is worried about one person and one person only in this race, and that's borne out by polling, by the way. There's only one person at this point that he needs to be worried about. Yeah,
it certainly looks like a soft launch for DeSantis, but he's got some time. His team has said that he can't really do anything until the Florida legislative session wraps up. That's not till May or June. Also, there's actually a Florida state law that a current state office holder can't seek another office, so he'd have to get that law changed, but his rather subservient Republican state legislature likely will do that for him, so that shouldn't be an obstacle for DeSantis. The itinerary is telling, and so is Trump's response. As we know, he is focused on one candidate only. He hasn't said much about Nikki Haley, for instance. He sees the polls. He sees that DeSantis, a big wheelchair off the cliff guy, is the threat, whatever that means. But there are two things we should note here. The criticism of Fox News, again, where Trump is clearly unhappy with the amount of airtime DeSantis is getting. He knows how important Fox News will be to a GOP primary early next year. And then secondly, breaking with some of the party here about Medicare and Social Security, which has been a popular issue for the Biden White House to paint Republicans with, the Rick Scott plan, etc. Some Republicans have offered some support for it, but Trump has been clearly against it. He has viewed that a political loser, and he's trying to attach DeSantis to it.
And that's the wheelchair off the cliff. The idea that they're going to push the elderly people who benefit from Social Security and Medicare off the cliff. That's what he's referring to there, Richard. As a veteran of Republican politics, from a different time perhaps, what do you make of the way this race is starting to take a little bit of shape, and DeSantis sending all these signals that he may step up and run against Donald Trump?
Well, clearly. What's also interesting, though, is where DeSantis doesn't seem to differ from Trump that much, which is on foreign policy. His initial statements, particularly about Ukraine, sounded positively Trumpist. Much more concerned about the southern border of the United States than the border with Ukraine or something. And the person out there who seems to be more of the larger national security point of view is Nikki Haley. So one of the questions is not simply whether you have Republican differences over the size of government or any number of other issues, but whether some of the old foreign policy debates, almost between the neocons, the America Firsters. I don't know if you're going to have any traditionalists like I used to be, but I think we're beginning to see that. And I'll be curious, with Pompeo, who will be very anti-Chinese, assuming when he comes out. I don't know where Pence is going to come out, but I'm curious to see where does the Republican field come out. And obviously, going back to what Jonathan was talking about, the bigger the field, the better for Donald Trump, who's obviously hoping that the anti-Trump is split the vote, and he still gets the plurality.
You touched on it, but Governor DeSantis effectively said in an interview last week, Russia's aims don't go far beyond Ukraine. They're not much to worry about. Yes, Ukraine is bad, but I wouldn't worry about the rest of Europe, which will come as news to the Bucharest Nine and other members of NATO.
No, but it's very much, again, it's, we focus so much on the person of Donald Trump. To me, at least as important or significant will be Trumpism. And to see to what extent beyond him did his ideas essentially become the future of this Republican Party. And at least in foreign policy right now, if Trump and DeSantis are the two leading candidates, they're actually in a pretty similar place.
And we should note, of course, not on DeSantis' itinerary, CPAC, which kicks off later this week just outside Washington, D.C. Very Trump-friendly crowd. The former president going to address the group there on Saturday. DeSantis wants nothing to do with it. So we are going to have this sort of split screen between the two current heavyweights of the Republican Party.
And he'll be at the Club for Growth. There seems to be a divide there where candidates are going.